So I came by this honestly. I'm not a teacher by trade. I started out in the private sector after college. I did some time in sales and then transitioned to college, worked in the admissions department, and then I got a chance to go work for Muskegon Public Schools. And that was the position that changed kind of my outlook on life and working with kids. So I worked at Muskegon in a program called Lead 2005, where we picked up an entire class of 7th graders, and our job with 2 other people and a supervisor was to shepherd those students through, get them to graduation, try to increase graduation rates, and continuing to post-secondary education. I worked with some great people. Marcy Joy, some of you may know, who retired from the Community Foundation a few years ago, taught us a lot about working with kids with struggle. And it really changed my point of view coming from a middle class, both my parents were educators, background. First time I saw roaches, a lot of other things with my time in Muskegon. Loved it. It was great. When that ended, I got the chance to go to White Lake Area Community Ed. At first it was student support, but shortly after, through some changes, they offered me the position of becoming the principal of Duck Creek Learning Center, which was exciting for me. And I used to work with a guy named Brian Barber. He called us edupreneurs because we flew under the radar a little bit, and we had the kids nobody really cared about or really wanted. They were out of their buildings, out of their hair. Whatever happened with them is kind of what happened with them. So we were able to try things, which is awesome. It's what I love about what we do. We definitely have a culture of trying things, and if it works, we do more, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. My goal, shortly after I realized if I'm going to do this, I want to make the best alternative education high school in the state of Michigan. Now, I've said this a lot of times. I don't know how you know if you are. There's no metric for that. But it's kind of one of those things I think you know when you get there. And so that was kind of always my goal. And another belief I have in life is that if you speak it enough, you can speak it into existence. And some of my staff are here, and they hear me say that a lot. We say what we want to have happen, and we make it happen. So that was kind of the overarching goal of taking over Duck Creek. So you see some, on the slide here, you'll see some statistics about, some demographics about some of our students here. And just to kind of get an idea, they come to us an average of 17 years old, having 3 credits. They need 22 to graduate. The majority of our students will perform in either English or math below high school level, well below high school level in a lot of cases. High free reduced, a lot of special ed, a lot of homelessness, and high A scores. We do the A survey with all of our students, and our average is a 4.6, which is extremely high. So, when we decided we needed to do this, and we wanted to do this, talent management was a big piece of this. This is about the time Tom Moore came as a supervisor and director of White Lake Area Community Ed. And he spent about a good year just kind of learning how we do things, and then he and I talked about needing to make some changes. And we had some people that were great people, but probably needed to do something different. Or maybe this wasn't the type of kids that they really was their sweet spot to work with. So over the course of a year and a half, we made some adjustments to staff. We changed our hiring process. We have a multi-layered hiring process. We're now hiring for a mindset as well as the ability. And we bring students into that process to make sure that the people who we end up with at Duck Creek are people who want to be there, but also have the right mindset to work with our students. We want an all-in mentality. We want everybody to go along with what we're going to do and subscribe to the philosophy of our building. And when I say all in, when we do PD, we all go. So this is not all of our staff. These are some pictures from, we do an invitation at the beginning of the year. We jump on the bus and we go to kids' houses. We bring them back or where they work. And we bring them backpacks full of stuff, and we invite them back to school. But when we do PD, we all go. The drivers, the office staff, the teachers, myself, counselors, Tom when he can, we're all there. And that's an important part of the fabric of our building. At some point, Tom and I had this crazy discussion. You know, we need to do something different. You know, we had people in place. We knew we were working with struggling kids. You know, what are some things we can do? And I can remember this day really clear. Tom was in my office and he said, "What if we just didn't suspend kids? What if we just didn't do that?" I said, "Yeah, what if we just didn't do that?" That's an interesting conversation. So he and I talked about that, and we kind of decided, we're not going to suspend kids anymore. Now, before you get too carried away, obviously there's times when you have to. State mandated, certain dangerous situations, threats, that's a different story. But if a kid drops multiple F-bombs, they're not going home. If a kid has a struggle with another student, we're going to work that out. Because when they're at home, they're not learning. When they're at home, nobody wins. Like Tom likes to say, if they're home for too long, you know where they are, they're breaking into your house instead of learning how to be a better person. So we want them in school. So we just don't suspend kids. And you can see that philosophy along with what I'm going to talk about next. You can see it starting to track. We're having less days of suspension, less expulsions, with more kids year over year. So the philosophy change came really when I saw the documentary Paper Tigers. We got invited to come down and screen that, and that was my light bulb moment. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a documentary on a wall of Washington. It's fun to say. High school, alternative high school building, very large, and how they basically decided they were going to do things differently as well. And there's a follow-up to it called Resilience, which is the science piece of the research. So our high ACE scores, high ACEs lead to behavioral issues as teens. So we talked about that high ACE score earlier, and that 4.6 is very high. 10, there's 10 questions if you're not familiar. They say anything over about a 3, you've got a pretty, some pretty serious life experiences. We've had kids that have said yes to all 10. I don't know if we've ever had a kid that said yes and had said no to all 10. And this isn't unique to us. Trauma kids are everywhere. They're in every one of the districts that you guys work in. And the cool thing about trauma-informed work is you apply it across the board. You don't have to try to figure out which kid it goes with. So we use experiential learning as a big piece of what we do at Duck Creek. Tom's background is in outdoor ed, camps, that type of thing. When he was a teacher back in Australia, he took kids out into the bush and with snakes and all kinds of stuff that I'm not interested in. But that's his background. So when he came there, he said, we need to do more experiential learning. And one of the things with trauma kids is they need to trust you. They really lack in that department. They've been let down so many times in their life. They need to trust you. So we get out in the world and we see what's going on. And we take kids where no one's ever taken them because they weren't good enough to go there or they weren't the right kids to go there. We take them on the W.G. Jackson. We take them to the art museum. We hook up with our preschool program and we take them to read to preschoolers. We do all kinds of cool stuff like that. Again, with Tom's background in outdoor ed, and he's also a professional cross-country skier, we make really good use of the winter sports complex in the winter. Take kids out there. They've never seen it before, the majority of them. We take them cross-country skiing, ice skating, just a hug in a tree. And we use that to build the relationship that we then transition into school with. I can tell you a quick story. I had a student named Aaron a few years ago, came into the building, real shy, not interested in school. We couldn't get him out of his shell. We couldn't get him to do anything. We took him out to the winter sports complex. Now this is a kid, not real healthy, not in the best shape, but he tried. He tried for us. And he started skiing, and then we went luging, and he did great at luging. And I kid you not, after that luging day, he was a totally different kid. He started coming out of his shell at school, he started performing, and he did graduate. It was a monumental task on part of our staff, but it happened. We take kids to the Amway Grand. When one of our staff members wins an award, we take kids to Grand Rapids and let them see that place. And it's awesome for me to go there. I've been there lots of times. So we do cool stuff to build that trust with them that then allows us to do the things we need to do at school. Addressing the whole student, removing barriers is another large piece, and all of us, no matter where you work, have those struggles and have those kids have those needs. But I really think for a small school, we really try hard to do this. We have a shower and a laundry available for our students. We figured out a few years ago that a good amount of our students didn't have access to hot running water. So we now have a shower, we have a laundry. We have a clothing closet. Yes, we have a bus, and anything, every school has a bus. We go door to door transportation. It's a challenge, especially when you're talking covering 6 districts over 2 counties, but we make it happen. We have julep She's our counseling assistance dog. She's there every day to help, again, just another way to help students break down, build trust with us. The shower, can I give you an idea? The shower we've used 146 times last year. We serve between 150 and 175 kids a year. So they took about 150 showers. That clothing closet last year, 191 that recorded visits, and 1,037 articles of clothing were taken out of that by 150, 160 kids. So it's a pretty awesome thing, but it also really helps you realize the need. Again, with the whole student, we try to give them other ways. We have a full-time counselor, which is very unusual for an adult or alternative ed building. We have a full-time counselor who offers both individual and group counseling. We use that ACE data. It's done anonymously, but we use the answers to the ACE data to see where our kids need support. Is it divorce? Is it drugs and alcohol? Is it violence? And then she builds support groups around that. We have brain gym activities through our building, things that kids can do without any equipment to help center themselves, bring themselves back if they're having a hard time. Different ways to be comfortable in the room, whether it's that crazy chair, we have some stand-up desks, we have regular sit-down, we can group kids differently to try to help them meet where they're most comfortable. We also have a reset room. That's a room if the student's really having a hard time, they need 15, 20 minutes, they can go to that reset room, there's some different activities, things available to them, and then return back to the classroom so that they're ready to learn. So graduation, it's pretty awesome. I see some of my people smiling. This is Evan. This is Evan giving the graduation speech this year at the school that he used to attend before he came to us. And he was super nervous to do this. But he trusted us, and he trusted us that we would keep him safe and that he would be okay. And he got up there and he did it, and it was awesome. So these are the kind of success stories that comes out of this trauma-informed work. So really the moral of the story is we had to change us to help them. Through the training, the trauma-informed training that we have, it's definitely changed how we do business. And it's, as a result, created a school where kids truly do